Okay, so I got the plenum cover off, which is right here. So that's the plenum cover. You can see the top part that we're looking at. That's what it looks like. And that is the plenum. There's a big ring, that white ring, that O-ring there. I got to pull that out and clean that. This entire thing, you can see it's got hoses going into it. This side, there's a bunch of things going into it. I got to take to separate these and move these out of the way. And this whole thing, there's little bolts down in there which you can't see. But those bolts are those expensive bolts that need to be changed. When I lift this thing off, well, first I got to take all this apart and do some of that. But yeah, so that black thing, the seals underneath and the bolts are the problem I'm having. So replace them and we should be good. I'll get back in a little bit. Okay, so I removed most of the exterior stuff. Now I got to take the bolts out. Try to ignore the music in the back. I got in some weird station. Anyway, so I got everything labeled nicely. I got all the stuff labeled and coded that I pulled off, and I've tucked a lot of it down in there. You can see right there I got a little duct tape. I'm using duct tape to add the label shit. Pulled a couple things off on that side now. There's bolts down in there, and I got to pull those out, and then this entire black thing should just lift right off. And then you'll see what's on the inside of the engine, or at least the next layer. Later. Okay, so this is what you were looking at in the engine. This is the plenum. And from what I understand, you can see the accelerator cables used to be hooked up to this thing right here, and then to that. Yeah, other one too. But this is the plenum that's underneath. And you can see these white things are the seals that I have to replace, and I got those in that box I showed you. But look how dirty this is. I don't know if you can tell. This should be all nice and clean. Look inside that hole, how gunky it is. Should be a lot cleaner than that. So, that is a plenum. Thing weighs like 20 pounds, and that was sitting on top of that. And that is the intake manifold. And what the plenum does, a big black brownie box looking thing, air goes through the plenum and the air goes down into here, and these tubes around here I'm assuming is the fuel, and the fuel gets mixed in one of these things here. I don't really know, but these seals, you see there's still a couple seals that are stuck onto the manifold. I just got to peel them off, clean it up. But my next big project is, if you can look in there, let me get a flashlight. Okay, let's see how nasty and dirty that is. There we go. That should be all nice and shiny silver. Look at that. That's disgusting. And that's because the bolts, the isolator bolts, which bolt into these little holes you see right there. And these are the bolts. Hold on, hold on. Those bolts you guys see sticking out. These things. Those bolts have little rubber grommets on them. You can see the bolts in there. There's another one. Go over here to the new bolts. This is one of the new bolts. And that green rubber, well, when they made these engines, they put black rubber on them, and they didn't realize the oil degrades the black rubber. So the oil was slipping into the whole plenum thing and fouling up and letting oil slip into those holes. And that's causing my problem. And I got too much air leaking into the engine. So that air leaking into the engine is throwing the computer code off, and that's why I can't get, what's it called? You know, inspected. So that's where I'm at. So now I got to clean out all those little holes down in there. God knows how long that's going to take. I'm going to be using Q-tips and a lot of this stuff. Sorry. A lot of that stuff, which is carb cleaner, and it dissolves grease and grime. It dissolves grease and grime. So get some Q-tips, start cleaning, start scrubbing, get my finger in there. Because what I could do is take off that entire thing, that intake manifold, but that's a good 2-3 hour process, because then I got to drain the coolant and drain the fuel and a whole bunch of crap's involved with that, and I don't want to get into that. So I'm just going to clean these little holes from above as best I can. Put new seals on, put it back, new isolator bolts, and we should be good to go and put everything back together. But I got to charge my camera up, so I'll get back some other time. See ya. Okay, so far I am about 3.5 hours into this project, maybe 3. But the last hour and a half I haven't done anything because I had a little sandwich bar, made me some lunch, and then I'm trying to clean those things out. There's 6 of them, all 12 I guess, count all the holes for each cylinder. Problem is, my rag is tearing to shreds when I do it. I tried Q-tip, but Q-tips aren't working. So I went to the AutoZone, asked them, I had to wait in line because they're real busy. So then they mentioned the idea of trying to get a little toothbrush. So I'm going to try a toothbrush, and I just went and bought a tile grout cleaner, and this is nice firm, so hopefully I get in there and scrape some of that crap out. But we'll see what happens. I'll be back. Okay, that's what a dirty one looks like. Got a bit of light on that. You can see how nasty those things are. Now, it's been about 15 minutes. I cleaned that one. Looks a little better. Not as much as I'd like to get, but you can see it's not all the black gunkiness that's in there. Actually, well, I'm zooming in without knowing it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. It's been about 20-25 minutes, but 10 of that minutes was had to trim this down. This was a lot bigger, had a big tip on it, and the bristles were too long, so I cut them in half. They did come out to about there. So I used my Dremel tool and reshaped this. I was thinking of cutting the handle off too because it was too big to fit in there. But anyway, that's about it for cleaning these things. I got 5 more to go. I'll come back in about an hour. See ya. Okay, we're an hour and a half later, and I got them as clean as I'm gonna get them because there's a lot more I could do, but I just can't get down in there. That's what they look like now. Got a couple dirty brushes. I went out and bought some cheap toothbrushes and a tile grout brush. I already explained that. Had a bunch of dirty rags. A few more over there. Those are the 2 plenum pieces I have to clean off. But getting down in here with my flashlight. You can see they're a little cleaner, but still, those holes go down in there almost 8 or 9 inches. So all I gotta do now is vacuum them out. I know there's a bunch of little particles and everything that fell in there. So I'm going to rig up this hose right here with some duct tape. Dad, you'd love that, to my little vacuum here. So I can get that hose down into the little port holes right there and vacuum up all the little particles and dust rag pieces that fell in and crap like that. So I'll get that cleaned up. Clean up those 2 things, which I kind of sprayed them down a little bit. They were all covered in oil and they shouldn't be. So clean those up. Got to take this gasket out, put it back, put in new gaskets on the other side, and put it back on. Tighten it down. Put everything back. But I'll catch you later again. See ya. Beautiful. Okay, here's an example of why I like doing stuff myself as opposed to going to a mechanic. One, they overcharge you incredibly, and they do things. They don't do things I know I want to do. For example, like. Covered it up with a towel now, but cleaning all those ports out, getting down in there with a toothbrush and really scrubbing, they wouldn't even touch the ports. They just would put seals on and put this thing back on and put this back on top, put the cover back on, and that's it. They wouldn't have cleaned anything. It's just stupid to go to a mechanic. Of course, if you don't know what you're doing, then it helps. Because the other thing I did was I got down in all these holes and I cleaned out all the oil and dirt that was in there, and I'm going to take this seal off and clean that and put it back. And I guarantee you a mechanic wouldn't go to all that trouble. They just put the seals in and they'd go. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for a little tidbit. Talk to you later.